Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining today for Motivation Monday. I'm so excited for today. My name is Jennifer Santoro, and this is an amazing group. If this is the first time that you're joining us, we are 5 generations of entrepreneurs, and I am joined by some pretty fabulous women with me today. So I'm Jennifer, and I represent the 30s, and I have Stephanie here with us, and she represents the 20s generation. And then Cheryl's with us, and she represents the 50s generation. And then we have Dottie Berry, who represents the 60s generation. And she's actually like our fearless leader. She's like the facilitator that like is the glue that pulled us all in together. And so we have a lot of gratitude for her, like getting this movement started.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So today's topic is actually inspired by Simon Sinek's work. I was first exposed to his work when I worked at Florida State University at the Center for Leadership and Social Change, and it really made a lot of sense because a lot of what he talks about, I feel it comes back down to leadership and leading an organization. And so he has multiple talks that he does, but the 2 that we are going to discuss today are beginning with why, and then also 2, first why, then trust. And so just to give everybody a brief overview, if you've never seen the TED Talks, the first one that we're going to discuss is beginning with why. And what that is he has created and put a visual to this amazing concept, which is the main point is people don't buy what you do, they buy why they buy why you do it. And this was a concept that completely revolutionized my work and the way that I show up in business now, when I'm thinking about what I'm communicating and how I'm communicating, of not just jumping into, for example, the product that I'm offering, and instead getting really into why I'm offering this product, because ultimately that is what people are going to relate to. So I would love to hand it over to you ladies to kind of talk a little bit about what was your first impression the first time that you were exposed to this golden circle and the concept of beginning with why.
Well, it looks like we lost somehow there. So I can just tell you, I watched the not the second one that we're going to talk about, but the first video about why. I've seen that probably, I don't know how many times now, and probably the first time several years ago. And it's every time I watch it, it's just so profound. I mean, that video is just so profound. And we actually, as a family, we did it with my boys when they got a little bit older. I mean, it might be not good for really young children, but as they got a little bit older, we had an amazing discussion around that video. And I can tell you, both of my boys, especially David, with what he's doing, he totally embraces that. And he got the book, because there's a book now by it that wasn't around when I think it was originally put out in YouTube or on TED Talks. So anyway, it's just amazing. And I was excited when this was the topic today, because it really makes you go back to the heartbeat of why you do what you do. And it really makes you think about that. And I think that it's something that this video is not one you should watch one time and be done with it. You should watch it many, many times.
I couldn't agree more, Cheryl. I know for me, every time I watch it, there's something else that sparks in me, and I get deeper into it, of understanding it on a deeper level, of even just observing myself as a consumer and the brands that I ultimately choose to work with, and invest in. And I think at the end of the day, it's coming to understand the difference between buying and investing. And I believe that people want to invest in whatever it is that they're purchasing. And when you're able to communicate your why as a business, it allows people to connect with the shared value system. And ultimately that's the game changer. So Dottie, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Okay. Listen, I love this. I was listening to the first one as I was going to bed last night. And then I listened to the second one while I was walking this morning. And I've heard both of these multiple times. It sort of like has the profound effect on me that Brene Brown works does in her TED Talks about vulnerability. And so, you know, it just sort of hits me at the core. And it really made me think about why, Jen, you and I are working on Dare to Take Your Epic Journey about people becoming an educator entrepreneur. You know, and when I look at what he's talking about the innovators and so forth, I've been saying for several years, gosh, you know, you're not free until your message in the world is put out into the world. But it goes even deeper than that. It's, you know, you're really not free until the people you're supposed to be aligned with to hear your message. And I'm passionate about helping people do that because I know that likewise, I'm not free until I'm helping those people do that. So I'm really passionate about, wow, you know, you have an expertise to share with the world. You have a message to share with the world, but your message has to be aligned with those who are looking for your message. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I know that so many people say, I don't know how to put it together. I don't know what platform to use and those kind of things. So, but at the core, there's a lot of people out there offering, you know, how to launch your course. You know, there's not, you know, I mean, it's not like you can't go out there and find that. But I'm passionate about really helping people connect their energy to getting that message out. Because I see so many people, and this doesn't matter if you got a course, you got a product, you got a service, as long as you're sitting there on it, and you might think a lot of people offer this. So what? Nobody's you. Nobody can be the you offering that into the world. So whatever it is you have, it's time to get it out there. And that's what I'm passionate about. So it really pulls me back right into that why.
I love it. Snaps all around. And so just to give you a heads up, Stephanie was waiting for you to accept her back in for a second.
Okay, sorry about that, Stephanie. Got to put my glasses on at this point.
I am so happy that you said what you said, Dottie, because I think it just goes to show the importance of bringing our emotion into the work that we do. And I think a lot of times people confuse emotion with drama, and they're actually two very separate things. And so I think what's really important to understand is the emotional component is what ties us together. It's what ties us as a community together. And what I love about the second video is he really goes into discussing the fact of how trust is built is through a shared value system and through a shared belief system. And ultimately, that's an emotional component. That's how we relate to each other. And what I love is that, you know, this movement is helping to bring that back to the forefront. And ultimately, what is making companies that much more successful. It's what separates, separates Apple from all the other computer companies, is that there's an emotional component that you feel when you're an Apple consumer, you know, and I think that that is just something to really take note of. So I want to pass it down to Stephanie since you're back on, which is so great. Stephanie, I was so excited when we first started diving into this concept a few weeks ago. She totally rocked it out in talking, and she just got the book. And so I would love to hear your thoughts.
Well, so I've always been kind of fascinated with the why. And actually, I should have shared the article with you guys, but I was reading this article yesterday. A 24-year-old millionaire was talking about how he made his millions and the biggest lessons learned. And one of the things he said was, you have to have a why that's bigger than you. Because the people who have made real money, serious money, have a why, have a drive that's bigger than them. And it's something that people can relate to. So that's why people like Apple and Microsoft make the money they make, because they have a why that's bigger than them. They're out there to change the world. You know, the other way I heard it put last year was the people who make real money are the people who disrupt the way the world does something. And when you can find the why that drives you to do that, it really doesn't matter what you're facing. It doesn't matter what you're up against. You will make it happen for yourself. Every time I sit down with a coaching client, it's the first thing we figure out is, what is your why? because we're about to go up against giants here. We're about to take on Goliath. And are you going to get up every morning and take on Goliath? Are you going to work till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night to take down Goliath? The only way you're going to do that is with your why. And so I got Simon's book and I'm starting to read through it. And I love the fact, so I don't know, Cheryl, did you say you've read the book or your son got it?
I have not read the book. My son has it, and we've had great discussions around it. And I think we've read a couple chapters together, but it was ultimately his book, and I had not gone out and gotten my own copy. So therefore, he has
Okay, so he kind of starts with the fact that the goal of his book is basically to help people realize that the why is what really drives them. And how, you know, it came at a time when he wasn't expecting it, wasn't looking for it. He wasn't looking for a why. And I think a lot of people aren't looking for their why. I think they're kind of, I've got a product, I've got a service, and I can make sales. Great. And kind of thinking through all of this, I started to realize, I was like, you know, you do have to start there. But if you ever want to be big, if you ever want to go big, you do have to sit down and say, what is my why? What am I doing? Why do I exist? You know, I had someone ask me, what's your 500-year goal? What are you looking to leave on this earth? I said, I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. And goes, well, if you want to build a big business, you want to do the things that you're capable of, you have to figure out how you're going to change the earth. What are you going to leave behind you? Wow. And so I'm so grateful that Simon is the one figuring out how to help everybody figure out their why, because as important as it is, I'm not always perfectly great at helping people figure it out.
Well, it's a huge question.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, it's not like something where you go in and straight off the bat, like when somebody asks you, what's your why, that you can answer. I can't tell you how many organizations I've worked with where we start to try to discover what the why is. And it's amazing when you do it on a whiteboard, how everything that the process of it is really fascinating, because everything that comes out at first are the what's in the house.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to drill and drill and drill and drill down until you get to that core of the why behind what you're doing and what you're doing as an organization together. And so it takes work. You know, and I think that's why, you know, that's why so many organizations probably struggle with it, is because it's a very, I would argue it's a very advanced level of of reflection.
She wanted in the door.
Oh,
she does take attention, not to interrupt you.
Hi, you.
She's cute, Dottie.
So this is a great why in my life. Go ahead, Jen. I didn't mean to, you know.
Well, actually, I wanted to. So I think you're onto something, Jen. Not just is it hard, but unless you've got someone with you who can help you kind of say that's not the why, that is the why. I've seen a lot of people stop too soon, and they think they found their why, and they haven't. And so, you know, it's funny because when I teach marketing, right? So I've had a lot of people asking me about marketing lately, and it's, you know, insane how many people have been like, hey, can you help me with my marketing? And the first thing I always tell them is we need your marketing message. You know, we can put together a great marketing plan, but unless we know what your marketing message is, the one message that encompasses why your company exists and why you're doing what you're doing, we can, you know, there's tons of options for marketing out there. So we can put together a lot of ideas, but unless we can, you know, create this why and connect all of our pieces to the why, we're not going to have it. But I see people give up so often, and they're like, oh yeah, I've got it. And I'm like, that's not a real why. That's a what you do. That's a how you do it, but it's not a why. That's not why you do it. And they're like, well, you know, and then as soon as I get them to find the why, there's always like this, oh my gosh, like breakthrough moment. But they all try and stop sooner. And I've had people like actually say, you know what, Steph, we're done with this. Like we figured this out. And I'm like, no, you haven't. Oh, no. And they feel like they've got it figured out. Allie says, totally agree. Hate it when web companies don't bother to go that deep with businesses. I agree. It irritates the snot out of me to see a company come in and say, hey, we're going to set you up with all of these different, pieces of the marketing puzzle. And not figure out why these are important to you. Oh my God, you need SEO. You need SEO. Well, I've got news for you. Maybe they don't.
Well, the thing is that you can have all the SEO you want in the world. You can show up all you want, but if people don't connect with what's showing up, it's not going to convert, And what I love about what Simon says is that, at the end of the day, sales in a company is the lifeblood. Like, you need sales in order to continue as a company. What I love is that he completely takes the sales and the money out of the why, and he puts clarity to it and says, money is a result. And I love that, because that's such a clear understanding of where it sits in the business. It's a very important result. It's extremely important to the business. However, though, if that's the main motivation, it's going to be an uphill battle, because people aren't going to be able to connect and to relate. Because, like we said, consumers and me, I look at myself as a consumer. I want to relate to the companies that I'm choosing to do my business with. And I've always been a believer in saying that if you really want to understand what your value system is, pay attention to what you spend your money on. Because for us to spend money, it means that we're willing to invest in something. And so, for me, I really enjoy food. And so a lot of my budget goes towards eating out with friends and making good, healthy meals, and really enjoying that part of life. And and it's like, you can just see how it's one of my value systems. And so if you're not communicating your value system as a company, like, how are consumers and your potential clients supposed to be able to relate to you and trust you?
Oh, so you got to come visit. I've already got, and I know Cheryl and Stephanie too, but we make an experience of eating and Robbie grilling on the green egg grill. It's like this experience, and just having people and that energy around the connection. And I was just thinking about, when you're talking about the why, see, the why is connected to people. It's like high tech creates the high touch. The high tech is just out there for, being high tech. It really has no value if it never connects to the high touch, where you're relating with the people. That's why I do high tech. There's not any other reason for me to do it. It's about the connection.
I love it, Dottie. And I love that you bring that up, because in the second video that we were talking about with Simon is First Why, Then Trust. He talks about the most important element, which is the human connection. It's like, technology is so important. Like, all of us on this blab right now, we would never know each other if it weren't for technology, right? It brings people together, and it's such an important and amazing blessing of living in this day and age. And it doesn't replace, though, what's called the handshake leadership, which is the face-to-face and actually getting in person. And what I love is that it's like what you just said, Dottie, is like, Jennifer, can't wait for you to come out here, because it's not just about us connecting online. It's about us finding and making the time to come back together. And so what I love is in the second video, how he goes on to talk about the disconnect that can happen when we're not actually interacting with the people that are working within our companies, the people who are our customers. When they just become numbers on a piece of paper, we get disconnected, and therefore the decisions that we make might not be as supportive of the organization as we would want to. And so I'd love to hear your ladies' thoughts on that concept about the importance of staying in touch and the human to human, making sure that you have the human to human connection with your team members and with the people who are purchasing your work.
Yeah, I got to tell you a real funny story since you're talking about showing up in person. So Cheryl knows it's the first time I met her in person, and she's not the one who said this, but Dr. Roger and Karen, when they met me, they were like, oh my God, you look so much better in person. Oh, I was just gutting it. I was laughing so hard. I was like, I didn't know whether to cry or laugh or hug their neck or punch them in the face. No, you know what I'm saying? But they were complimenting me. But, and this is why I say to people, look, I'm in my 60s, and we can all be challenged, especially women, about getting on camera and all that kind of thing. If I had a hat, I'd put it on backwards and do what half the guys do and turn their hat backwards. And they're like, and nobody would have a judgment about that. But we know as women in society that there's often judgment, and we feel that. And I see that stop women. So one of the reasons I get on camera is because I go, look, don't let anything stop you. Just get yourself on there. Let yourself be seen. People are going to connect with you. They're going to feel your authenticity, whatever. And, I always just say to people, look, if I can do this, you can do it. I always want people to feel like, gosh, if this lady can get on there and do that, surely I can. I don't want them to think, oh, we can't do that. I want them to think just the opposite. But that was just such a funny story, Cheryl. I know you remember it.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it does not kick in a filter of what you're going to say in person. Sometimes that would be a good product. But it's funny because those of you who know what I have really embraced, which is the family connection. And when I did the Next Best Brilliant Idea for Humanity, the whole platform that I did that on was today, while technology will connect us across continents, tonight, can you connect with your family? Because there's such a disconnect that sometimes in our own homes with our own families around our own kitchen tables. And how do we, so, it has to start there first. And then it has to be in our companies. It has to be everywhere. And we need to have that, that connection, right? And I think technology is amazing. I mean, it is amazing, right? And I will tell you this, that I hadn't seen, so I met Dottie in person and it was amazing. And there is a twinkle in her eye that you can't see on screen. That's why they said that. I'm telling you, it's true. But when I met her, after I hadn't seen her in person, we met in Orlando for a conference. And I probably hadn't seen you for what, maybe, gosh, I don't know, a year, 6 months?
Something.
Yeah, it was a long time. But because we're on Skype all the time, it's like I saw her. I feel like I don't feel like I haven't seen her. You know what I'm saying? It was still amazing to spend time with her, but technology has allowed us to do that. And I think Simon Sinek, when he did that video, probably they didn't have, because that was done a few.
Exactly.
One in 2011, one in 2013. And certainly we weren't using it then as much as we are now, although I was doing Google Hangouts about 4 years ago. But still, I think you're right.
I think that you're absolutely right. I would say that there's something, and this is why people will learn to know this about me. I'm a huge advocate for video. I've done a lot of work with video for marketing purposes because of the relationship that you can build, and because it's all about relationship building. And I believe that this and then the next best thing is this video conferencing of us all being able to be here together, because I feel the same exact way. Like if I were to, when the day comes where I get to finally meet all of you in person, I don't feel like it's going to be this, oh my gosh, it's so great to meet you. Like it's literally going to be like meeting an old friend, and I think that that's the power of it, which is so great. And so maybe what it is being strategic about using technology with the intention of remembering the importance of human connection. And that if our intention can stay in that space of working our hardest to never become disconnected with, when the day comes and we build this, multi-million-dollar operation, right? And we have all of these team members across the world, that we never allow ourselves to forget that each team member is a human being with a life story, and that we are here to be of service to each other. And at the end of the day, our companies are our community. And so, that's something that I know I'm very passionate about. I thought in the second video, it was very interesting about this. He does this graph of results of like money increasing and growth of the company, and then people's connection to the why with the company. And there's a split that he's seen happen in majority of companies as they grow bigger and bigger and bigger. As the company grows and it gets bigger and bigger, the why, the people of being connected to the why starts to disconnect, which then is equated to distrust in the company, because then, you know, layoffs can happen and loyalty to a company is not the same anymore. And so it's an interesting time that we live in. And so I would love to hear, you know, your lady thoughts about that, about, you know, you all run your own businesses, you know, and so what are some of your thoughts on that, and what are some of your takeaways on that concept?
Well, actually, I wanted to comment before we move on too quickly, going back to the trust thing, because as a sales trainer, one of the first things I teach people is to build trust, that people buy from people they like and trust. People don't buy from people that they don't like and trust. You know, we have too many scam artists in the industry now who have taken advantage of people and taken them for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we are becoming very wary of where we spend our money, who we spend our money with. And, you know, there's so many scams out there you can get caught up in, right? You can get caught up in the, you know, prince from Nigeria trying to get you to, you know, give him your right. So there's a ridiculous amount of scams out there. And part of the reason we look for trust is that we can trust other people for the most part. We want to know that the person we're going to give our money to is going to take good care of us. But we need to know that they're a human being and that they feel like a human being feels. Because if you feel like a human being feels, you're less likely to take advantage of me. You're less likely to go out there and take my money and basically run with it, because you'll feel bad, hopefully. So as far as trust goes, without trust, you don't make sales. And I have so many stories. You see, I'm not exactly a people person, which is hard to believe sometimes, but that's not my thing. I get into a sales meeting and I'm like, all right, we're going to sit down. We're going to talk. I'm here to sell you. You're here to buy. Why are we messing around with this whole, you know, your kid plays soccer thing? Like, what the heck? So I was like trying to blow past it. And I remember very distinctly this one time, they moved me from a sales rep to the head of the retention team. And about 3 weeks after I moved to the head of the retention team, an account came across my desk, a brand new account. And it takes 2 weeks for an account to go live. So that means the account was sold 2 weeks prior to when it got across my desk. And it was an account I'd been trying to close. And I had done everything to close this account. And I'm like, okay, so someone went in there and sold it literally 1 week after I stopped being a sales rep and following up with them. So I go track down the sales rep and I'm like, hey, you know, what happened? And he tried to like duck out for a while. And finally he was like, you know, Steph, they just didn't trust you to be aggressive enough on their marketing campaign. They thought you were too nice. They didn't think you were going to take proper care of them. Wow. And I was like, are you freaking kidding with me? He's like, no, sorry. But, you know, like, it's a very real example. If people don't trust you, they won't buy from you, period. Mm-hmm. So that was my first thought. And then as far as, I think there is a disconnect that happens. The bigger the company gets, the more the culture tends to get lost. Mm-hmm. And that trust, that why is one of the first things I think to get lost, partially because, you know, for example, me, I'm so dedicated and I'm so close to my why right now. I tell it to everybody. And so it always surprises me when someone doesn't know my why, because I'm like, everybody knows my why. So I think
those who are watching right now, Stephanie, can you share your why?
My why is to change the way the world goes into and stays in business. I want to give people the opportunity to stay in business for as long as they want to. I don't want them going into business and spending their 401k to start up a restaurant and then going out of business 4 months later and having to get a job at 60 years old because they can't afford to retire anymore. You know, I'm tired of people getting taken advantage of. I'm tired of the misinformation. I'm tired That I'm done with that. So that's my why. But my thought is, and my theory is, that people say use their why so much that by the time they get to a big company, they think everybody knows it. So they stop propagating the why. It just ends up falling off the back end. That's my theory as to why the why tends to disappear.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And then another reason, there's a little bit of feedback. Wait for it. Okay, I think it's caught up. Another reason that Simon had talked about is how a lot of times the founders, by the time it becomes this big company, have actually left the company. And so when the founders are the ones who are embodying the why of the company, right? So they're walking it and living it and breathing it and exuding it. And then all of a sudden when they leave, it's like, where did the why go? And, uses the example of Steve Jobs. When he left, Apple went down. But when he came back, it goes back up. The same thing with the CEO of Starbucks, same kind of story. And you see it kind of over and over again. And so I think that it's interesting. I love that he's raising this awareness because, for example, if I think that it's completely understandable for a founder to take a next step. If they build a company to a certain point and they want to be able to take that next step. But I think what I want to help continue to raise awareness around is that for those people who take the football, to not forget to really do a full training and understanding and interview on the why behind the company, to then understand that as a leader, and that's one of the most important aspects, I believe, of leadership, is being able to embody the why and then being able to exude that why so that the entire team is motivated because they want to do it, because it's their work, it's their why. And so I think that's always been one of my favorite definitions of leadership. And I think that that's important for us as we are continuing to explore and expand and understand business in the modern day.
I think you just hit something really valuable there, Jen. Hiring is often one of the biggest mistakes people make in business. They hire too soon. They hire the wrong person. It's a big deal. And I think what I've started teaching other people to do, what I have done, is I hire my employees, my entire, every question I ask them is based on my why and how they connect to it. And so I think that's a huge deal that a lot of people miss. And I wanted to point out, because you said it so subtly, I don't know if anyone was going to pick up on that, but I think it's a big deal. I think if you hire for your why, you build a company around you that will follow through with the why. And trust me, there's plenty of people out there. You do not have to take the first person to jump through the door.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that makes so much sense.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, all I was going to say is, that's the thing that we talk about that bonds a community, is a shared value system and a shared belief system. It goes the same thing with a company, is that, and it's okay if somebody doesn't have that shared value system or belief system. It's okay if there's a company out there that they will be a better match with. And then vice versa. If you're interviewing for a company and the value system and the belief system isn't in alignment, it's neither right or wrong. It just means that there's a different company for you you have a different tribe. And all the tribes, are out there in the world doing what they need to be doing. And so, it's just a matter of making sure that you have that self-awareness of knowing what your value system is, what your belief system is, and then make sure that you team up with the right people. And just as the next point, I took some notes. One of the things that I love that Simon brings up is that when you have a shared value system and a shared belief system, you're able to build confidence with the people that you're working with, which allows you to take more risks, which is essential to simply having success in business. You can't play it safe all the time. So that's just another side note. So Dottie, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just thinking about with companies and so forth, and the examples he gave of somebody leaving and somebody coming back. And so we think often about how is the transfer of control of the company going to happen when this person retires. But one of the most important things is, how do you transfer the why on this everybody else? Because think about it. In those companies that he named, they had to come back. But eventually, as we know, somebody passes away, like Steve Jobs has passed away. So that company has to figure out a way to continue to embody that why. And really the best leader in the world, I think, is one who doesn't want that why to reside only with them. Now, that's easier said than done. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of ego that can come into play there. And it's almost like a thing of pride. Oh, they couldn't do it without me. They had to call me back. You know, the greatest compliment in the world would be if they continued your why and they didn't have to call you back.
That goes back to what we talked about last week.
What's that?
That goes back to what we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Where, you know, a leader surrounds himself with a group of people who can carry on their mission without him. I know, Jen, you and Cheryl weren't on last week, but we had an issue where Dottie actually had to get off. And Yasmin and I kept going and we were making a joke about it. We were like, this is perfect. This is a perfect example of leadership. You surrounded yourself with a team of people who can continue it. And I think that goes back to insecure leaders, your point, Dottie. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, that ego, I think, becomes involved to thinking, oh, wow, they can't do this without me.
Yeah.
That's not the compliment. I mean, it's kind of like when we're talking about the big gurus out there and all, you know, who their desire is to be like attached to you like a guru. And that's why I always say, you know, the guru is G-U-R-U. And I wish I could remember who said that, because I didn't make it up and I just can't recall. But it's so powerful. In other words, you know, you want to walk in your guru-ness. You know, you want to walk in who you are. If you have to have me as your coach around you all the time. And when I coached basketball, one of the things we told people is, look, when you graduate from the University of Kentucky, there's not going to be somebody around to kick your butt every day in life. We're giving you skills that you're going to be able to take with you. And that's why I have connections with players even today. One of my closest relationships is with Valerie Steele, our All-American, still the all-time leading scorer ever, men or women, at the University of Kentucky. We've been through things together. We've been through so much you can't even imagine. I represented her, you know, brought her into the pro leagues when the pro leagues came back in the U.S. after she played in Europe. But we have this connection, and we always know. I mean, we pick up the phone, and we're just like right there, you know. But and there were times when Valerie was leaving the University of Kentucky. You know, we talk about how I was over there at the dorm saying, Val, you can leave, but you're going to run into whatever you're running into right now, you know. And, you know, so she did stay with it. And that was a life lesson. You know, we're trying to, in any situation, you know, we talk about people you like, know, and trust, and people can't think that can't be done online. That's false. The difference is, the distinction is that people want the same thing online as they want offline. They want to be able to like, know, and trust you. And how can they trust you if they can't ever see you like this? So a lot of people hide behind some product and they're selling it. You never see a face. And I go, that's why I keep telling people, show your face. Let them see who you are. I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, I just think this is really important questions. And, you know, Cheryl, I know you've got some real great feedback along these lines as well.
Well, you know, I know for me, and I had made this comment the other day, that, you know, obviously as you're starting something out, it is about you. It's about your story. It's about your why. It's about your passion. And that's where it has to start. But eventually, so for example, with mine, you know, yeah, it's my family story. That's the whole reason that this came about in terms of what we did. But ultimately, our story will always be there, but I want it to be about everybody else's story. I want it to be about the families that take this and they make it even more amazing. And they have a journey that's, you know, inspires in a different way, because everybody has that different story. So I look so forward to the time where a whole community could run, and it wouldn't matter if I was in the middle of it or not, because everybody's now, you know, talking about what they got out of it, and your why then does get passed on. And that passion about how we can really make that change gets passed on. You know, and I don't want to get political, but that's what you're seeing in some of the political campaigns right now, right? You're inspiring because people understand the why. Then it doesn't even mean the ones that have the strongest why, but are going to get elected, but I'm just saying you can see the ones that do, because those are the ones that are rallying the people who want to take it and move it forward. And I think if you can create that inspiration in people, that they can see your why in them, and of course it's a brilliant thing that he shares about, the Wright brothers and Dayton and flying, and also, Martin Luther King's speech that he did, that day, people didn't come there for him. They came there for themselves because they wanted to have that feeling of being a part of something that was bigger than they are. So I think that's the hardest part to capture, but man, when you do, but it doesn't happen until you understand it first. And that's, I think where a lot of people miss it. You got to have it here first, and then you can start to create that around you.
I love that, Cheryl. I think you just hit the nail on the head, and that brings up a lot about he also talks a lot about the importance of passion and ongoing passion, and that as as companies and communities grow, sometimes what can happen is we can lose sight of the passion, which means that passion is connected to the why. And going back full circle to what we were originally talking about, of being able to discover what your why is and what the company's why is to pay attention to where the spark comes from. Like I love what you said was here, and you your hand came right here. And I believe, again, that's bringing emotion back into business and remembering that emotion is not drama. Emotion is our human connection that we have to one another and to the work that we do and to the causes that are bigger than us. And so when all of a sudden, as you're drilling down and drilling down and drilling down to figure out what that why is, you're going to know the immediate moment when all of a sudden, you go, it's you just automatically want to go yes, this is what it's about. This is where the passion is. And, I think that for me, I had a big aha moment in a really positive way. The last week I was up in New York City, and I was able to be exposed to some amazing people who are running huge companies and multiple companies, and they are just doing it. You know what I mean? They are just living so many dreams, and they were the most grounded, loving people I had ever met. And I was just seeing how they were just constantly working, right? They were constantly working. They were constantly doing something for one of their companies, right? Because they own multiple companies, right? So they have to be consistently thinking in millions of directions all at once. And somebody asked them oh, are you going to be able to take any time off this weekend? And their response was, no, but you know what? It's okay because we love what we do. And it was this moment of being wow, yes, that's how it's done. Not that path is for everyone. I believe that you have to be authentic to yourself and you have to listen to yourself. But I think what it was showing me was that, a huge reason why their companies were so successful was because I saw their passion. I saw their heart in the work. It wasn't about, oh, I have to get this done. It was this desire and this want, and they were bringing their love and their presence to every decision that was being made. And I was very inspired by it. So I'd love to pass the ball over to Cheryl, you or Dottie, and kind of hear your thoughts about that.
Go ahead. No.
Go ahead, Dottie.
No, I mean, I sit there and I'm inspired just think about that. And I think often how my why scares me a little bit, and it should, not in a fear-based way. And that's a distinction right there. But I think I would say to people, if your why doesn't make you kind of go, gulp, whoa, hold on for the ride, then it's probably not bigger than you. It's not big enough because playing safe, a lot of people play safe, and it's called surviving in life. I want to thrive in life. And so, it's always been this thing for me to, push a little bit more, and not in a way that says, I think there's a real disconnect that that we all have to be careful of, that busyness or whatever would equal okayness. No, it doesn't. That just means that's feeding into the fear and like it's not the good kind of thing, to say, oh, I worked 25 hours out of 24 hours a day, just as if that had meaning. The people that work to their heart's content and play to their heart's content and eat to their heart's content are the people who I love. In other words, to be able to say I eat what I want and I eat whatever I want. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean overeating. That means really enjoying the pace of eating, the experience of eating, because enough of us have eaten our way and worked our way through trying to be okay and feel okay. And, myself included in the past, you know what I'm saying? So it's not like it's a judgment on other people, but it's always been about how could I get more in touch with who I am, to be fully authentic with who I am without relying on something over here to create that okayness. And I can say at the age of 60-something, it's a lifelong process, and I'm sure it will continue to be. It's not like arriving, so I think that's the big misnomer is, especially I think as we're younger, we think, oh, we'll get it. I'm just here to say that you never just really get it, and you hope you don't just get it, as in being complacent. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just a lot of it, I think, around the why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cheryl, I'd love to hear your thoughts too about the importance of understanding that the passion is, it's like, you hit your why when you hit that passion, and when you're operating from that passion, that it's almost like work isn't work anymore. Like it's just you're consistently moving things forward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think about weekends being weekends. I mean, weekends are just irrelevant, right? I mean, once in a while I say, well, I need a day, I need to take a break sometimes and, give myself a chance to rest. But the reality is that I don't want to go most weekends without diving into something that I know is going to move what I am passionate about forward. And it's almost torturous for me if I feel like I have to not do anything. It's just the opposite of how most people look at a weekend. Most people are like, man, thank God it's Friday. I don't even know what day of the week it is half the time because I don't run my life based around that, right? But I do think it's been hard for, I have like my mom, she used to just say, oh my gosh, you're always busy. You're always doing something. I just don't know how it is you do all that you do. And I'm very happy doing those things. Right. And I used to look at her, she'd say, I just don't know how you do all that you do. And I didn't say it, but I wanted to say, I don't know how it is you do all you don't do. So because, I think when you have a passion and you know why you're here, it just propels you forward. But I do want to say, going back to this, that I think we do have to be really careful not to be driven in the busyness by fear. And I do think that can happen. And I don't, passion, like you said, it's not drama, it's not fear. Passion is, and sometimes we have to do things we don't want to do, but everything that you do, to some extent, I'm doing this because I know it's going to allow me to eventually be in the space I want to be in. And, but you do have to make sure that all this stuff you're doing is really driven by still that passion and not by fear or just, like you said, the drama of stuff that's going on in your life. So I think that's an important distinction that I think sometimes people get confused about when they're in the middle of it. And that's why I love watching that video, because it makes you step back and think about it again. Why did I, and I think sometimes I've had to go back and say, why me? Like, am I really up to this? Am I the person to deliver this message? What makes what I'm going to say different? And I know that what separates it for anybody who steps into this space ultimately, and the ones that really succeed, are because they come from that place of authenticity and the heart and the passion, and they deep down they know that their life is meaningful to do what they were put here to do. And so I don't know how to say it any different, except that I can literally get up and start working at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning and not quit till midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and then get a Skype from Dottie, who's 3 hours earlier, saying, "Are you still up?" You know, like oh my God, I am still up. And
we know each other so well, you know. I mean, seriously, that's why when we, you know, were recently in Florida together, and Cheryl walked in and we were giving each other a hug, you know, not just the physical handshake. And she was like, "You know, I mean, I am excited to see you, but didn't I just see you yesterday?"
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's a really good point, Cheryl, that, you know, I had people a lot when I was getting started. I got a lot of, "Oh my God," stuff, you know, be really careful. You're working really hard. You know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I was like, okay, well, I do get that. It is a marathon. It isn't a sprint, but there is something to be said for how you start. And so I do want to put the time and the energy in. And it's not that I hate what I'm doing. Like, I loved every minute of it. It wasn't like I got up and I went to work and, you know, in a panic. I got up and I went to work and I did stuff because I really like doing it. You know, I'll be watching TV and my brain's thinking, "Oh my gosh," you know, like, because my husband likes to watch TV. So we sit and we'll watch some TV together. And in my head, I'm going, oh my gosh, and what about this? And I'll be thinking this and trying this. So I just, you know, I'll pull out my notepad or do something. And so I'm working and I'm spending time with him and we're watching TV, but like, just sitting watching TV isn't fun. Like, I have to do something to make it really worth my time, worthwhile for me. So I'd like to have, you know, my laptop or my little notebook. I've started carrying a notebook with me everywhere that I go. Awesome. And so I will, you know, I'll just sit and I'll be like, last night I was scribbling out, I was goal setting for March. And you can see it's a mess. Like, the sheet of paper is just an absolute mess. But I was like, we're sitting and we were watching, I don't even remember what we were watching because that was irrelevant to me. But it's not a panic. It's not driven because I'm like, oh my God, you know, what if I'm not gonna have enough money to pay the bills? Or it's, I love doing this. This is my why. This is something that gets me passionate, gets me wound up about, gets me excited about. And that's what drives me.
I love that, Stephanie. Thank you so much for saying that, because I think you just so eloquently were able to express the difference between having a job and living your life's work. Like, I remember when I started working at the Center for Leadership and Social Change, it was such a surreal experience because I was surrounded by people who were like, who would describe the work as, like, they would come in and they would be like, "This is the work. Like, this is the work," you know, like, and it was like so much meaning. And I was like, what universe did I just walk into? Like, everybody's so into this. And it's like, you know, they pull all kinds of hours and like everything to do the work because like it was the purpose. You know, it was living life with purpose. And it was, the work was no longer a job. The work was living out your purpose. And at the end of the day, I think that that's what connects all of us in our E3 5 generations, is that we are very passionate individuals who are passionate about living a life of purpose and then supporting others and being able to discover and do the same. Because, you know, we all are unique in our own different ways. We all came to this planet, I believe, for a reason. And we all have, like, and I'm going to do it, like, we all have the work, you know? And, like, when you connect to that work, you know, it's like, it's true. It's like, it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. Your schedule no longer is around, you know, what day it is or what time it is. It's around, what's the present moment? Where's the focus right now? And then the thing is too, is again, it's like, we want to live a balanced life. We don't want to burn ourselves out. So like we said, it's about having awareness around making sure that we're not doing something just for the sake of doing it, but always living with intention and choosing the work that we're doing and the tasks that we're doing with actual intention and a full understanding of how it's moving us forward. So that's why, you know, I believe in coaching so much, is that, like, you know, I am a coach, but I work with a coach because, you know, it's like, it's what you need to just kind of have that check of, okay, am I focused on what I really need to be focused on, so I don't get off track. And then, too, like we said, the nice thing is that when I need to take a walk, go take a walk, when I need to go take a nap, rest, it's what the body wants. But then it's like, you get back up and it's like, all right, game time, what's next, and it's a great way to live. So I would love to have you ladies offer closing thoughts. We're just at the top of the hour. So I'm so excited for this. This was awesome. So Dottie, why don't we start with you?
Well, I was just thinking, it doesn't really matter if other people understand what you're up to. What matters is that you understand what you're up to. You even have, this is nothing against people who have 9-to-5 jobs and things like that, but sometimes it's really hard and difficult for them to grasp and say, oh, you work so much. And Robbie and I always laugh about it because, here we are in the hot tub in the morning, drinking coffee, reading together. You can be in charge of your schedule. Now, a couple of nights last week, I was up, throughout the night, connecting with somebody over in Thailand or different places, or, working to get some things ready for Jen to see, on the East Coast. You know what I'm saying? But I had played during the day, and I just, create the schedule that I want, that works for me. So you don't really owe other people the explanation. It's okay to try to help them understand, but they may never understand. You have to accept that that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Cheryl or Stephanie, closing thoughts.
Well, I want to go off something Stephanie said, and then I'll give a real closing thought. She was talking about the TV being on in the background, and I've gotten better at it, but I have to laugh because my husband is the same way. TV all the time, nonstop, right? And when he's here at lunchtime and he leaves, most of the time I cannot wait to just put maybe some background noise of music on, but usually nothing. Right? I don't mind being in the space of not having that noise in the background. In fact, I welcome it. But I have to laugh because I almost have to turn it off because I literally, the other day, he had something on. I don't even know what it was. And I walked out there and sat down. He left and I didn't turn it off. And all of a sudden I realized I was watching Winnie the Pooh. And because my brain just gets sucked into that TV set. And I just want to say to people, turn the TV off. I'm learning to deal with it because I used to drive from Ohio to Tennessee and never turn the radio on in the car. I might talk on the phone, but I wasn't turning the radio on in the car. And I know everybody's wired differently, and we're doing that, living together and expecting those boundaries. But for me, I love the focus of stepping into a quiet space where I can really be mindful, right, and not distracted. I would just encourage everybody. And I think the balance is important too. And I do struggle with that, admittedly, because this weekend, he's like, well, let's go to the home and garden show. And I'm like, I know I should be excited to go to the home and garden show with my husband, but I was just thinking, I really just want to stay here and get is waiting on me laying out my little mini book and just, I think I really want to get done. So it does have to have a balance. But I think when you struggle with those things, you're in your passion.
Yes.
Love it.
That's great.
Yeah. I think so. I think that was actually a nice little sum up there. When you struggle with those things, you're in your passion. The only thing I can tell people is I lived years not having a focus, not having a passion, and really just being miserable. And I cannot tell you how incredible it is to go from that kind of aimless drifting to having a focus and having a passion and having a drive. And it will change your life. It will change your revenue. It will change the money you have coming into your life. It will change how much you enjoy your life, how much you hate your life. It will change the people you hang out with. Yeah. When you find your why, it will change everything for you. It really will. So it is worth it. It is worth it to take time and figure it out.
It is, but aren't you in your 20s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wisdom in the 20s.
You're highly annoying.
Also,
out in your 20s. Only beat me by like 15 years, but whatever.
I'm late 20s. I've got that.
Yeah. Well, I will say.
Oh, 26 is not late.
I know, right? No, you're the
27. Wait a second. I'm 27.
I keep forgetting you've had that birthday.
Well, I think that there's something to be said for what's going on around the world right now. I just feel like more and more people are just really connecting with themselves, and I think that that's just such a beautiful thing. And that's how we're seeing it. This is how we're seeing it show up in the world. And this is what we've come back to so many times is really supporting the movement of entrepreneurship, because the changes that we want to see in the world are going to come from entrepreneurs. The changes that we've already seen in the world came from entrepreneurs. And so if you are feeling motivated, it's like you can be what I call an entrepreneur within your own company, but it's just having that heart and operating from that heart of passion of seeing a change that you feel is worthy of your time, and seeing a problem that you feel is worth solving and going out and doing it, and understanding at the core of why you're doing it. And when you are able to connect with that and communicate with that and continue over time to build further clarity around that, that is where you are going to see your life completely unlock and unfold, and then see how you contribute to the greater whole. And at the end of the day, that's what being a human is all about, is being able to contribute to the whole of humanity. And I commend each and every single person who's watching this right now, because that is what you're doing, just by even taking the moment to reflect with us. And I commend all of the women on the Blab with me today. They do it every single day and inspire me every single day. And I'm just so grateful to share this space. So thank you, ladies, for an amazing Blab today.
Thank you for leading it so well, Jen. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you all.
Thanks, Cheryl. And a shout out to Yasmin, who's in Las Vegas. We miss you. She's our 40s gal, but she'll get to see the recording later. And I hope you're having a great time, because you deserve some off time.
Absolutely. All right. Well, bye, everyone. See you next week.
Have a good week.